I want to put up our leadership code real quick. I think we have that to put up there. And if you guys know, it starts this way. It says, I am a leader. Sometimes we just skip over that part, and maybe for you, you read that part and you're like, oh, that's not me. I hear this a lot. People come to me and they say, well, why does the church always talk about leaders? I'm not a leader. Well, we put it first, right? We put that first right up there. I am a leader. Because when we say leader, the problem is with anything you want to talk about when you have a culture is you have to have a shared definition of what leadership is. And if you have a different definition, when someone uses a word, have you ever heard someone use a word and you're like, I don't think you know what that word means, right? So we have to have a shared lexicon. We have to have a shared understanding of what the definition of leader is. So what is it not? When we talk about being a leader, what do we mean? What do we mean? So I want to share what it's not first when we're talking about it in our context. It's not a title. It's often people will say, okay, someone the other day is so Pastor Jason, you have an executive pastor. Pastor Aaron's the lead pastor. I'm confused. Is he the leader or are you the leader? And the answer is yes. But it's not it's a leader. And there's this thought of well, if I'm a leader, then Pastor Aaron can't be the leader, right? Well, are you the leader? Are you the follower? Yes. Paul said, follow me as I follow Christ. So in other words, I'm going to lead, but my leadership is predicated upon the fact that I am a follower. Jesus shared with a centurion came to him and said, Jesus, would you heal my servant? And Jesus said, okay. And he goes, but actually, I don't even need you to come to my house. Speak the word only, and my servant will be healed. He said, for I am a man under authority. And I say to this one, go, and he goes. I say to this one, come, he comes. So what was he saying here? Because I'm under the authority of Rome, people have to do what I say. And so it's not a title. It's not a position. Maxwell said positional leadership is the lowest form of leadership. In other words, I have to follow you because you're the boss. It's not about power in God's kingdom. Leadership is not about power. Leadership is not being an expert in a field. We use that term when we're talking about the church, but what I'm talking about leader is not a person who's an expert in a field. Well, I can't lead, I don't know enough. I can't lead, I haven't gone to school. I can't lead, I haven't... No, that's not what it is. It's not a boss. A leadership is not a manager. A leadership is not politics in our context. What Maxwell said is, he said leadership is defined as influence. Now, that's great, but today, even that word has been co-opted. If you know any young people, you know what the number one job they want to be now when they grow up? I want to be a social media influencer, which means be famous for being famous. That's not what we're talking about. So in other words, even the definition that we had has gotten co-opted by society, influence. So what does that mean in the church? It's not about fame. Jesus said in Matthew 20:26, he says, if you want to be great, you must be the servant of all. Leadership in our context is serving. Leadership in our context is following Jesus, imitating Him. It's for us to serve, disciple, and care for one another. And we have to put under that context when we hear the word, I'm a leader. When you hear us talking about leadership, what we're talking about is serving, discipling. Back in the beginning of Genesis, God stated multiple times in Genesis 1, verse 11 and verse 24, He said, both of the plant realm and the animal realm, everything he's sharing, because he repeated it twice, a spiritual law. Everything reproduces after its own kind. So how do I know if I'm a disciple of Jesus? Am I reproducing after my own kind? That's what leadership is in God's church. It's being a disciple who makes disciples. It's someone whose life has been built, who is building other people's lives. And we could get to that context of, oh, well, I don't want to be great in God's kingdom. Well, that's the way to be great. Oh, no, I don't want to do that because well, that's how God humbles the proud and exalts the humble. So as you're humble, God, He's going to put you in a place of spiritual influence, not social media influence. Not getting paid to wear shoes or try somebody's stuff out. It's serving others. It's caring, loving for one another. When you look at going back to Moses, there's a story in Exodus 18 where he's wearing himself out because the people looked at it this way. They're like, he is the leader. He's the leader. Moses is the leader. We don't have any other leaders. It's just Moses. Because they had a slavery mindset for so long. They had been in slavery that they didn't have a proper perspective of themselves. So they just said, we have the leader, the boss, the manager, the politician, the expert. And so Moses was leading that way. And his father-in-law says, you're going to wear yourself out leading that way. He says, how you need to lead is you need to appoint leaders over thousands, leaders over hundreds, leaders over 50, leaders over 10. So what I hear a lot, and even in church leadership, they say, don't tell everybody they could be a leader because you're going to get their hopes up. Can everybody be a leader according to the definition I just talked about? Yes. Does someone else being a leader diminish my leadership? If I call everybody a leader, does it take anything away from me? Okay, so let's start with Pastor Aaron. So he is our pastor. He's our senior pastor. He is the leader, right, in a sense. Does me leading take anything away from him? No. In fact, if I'm doing it right, it actually makes him better. That as I lead, I'm representing him, I'm serving the vision. And we talk about this in our Next Steps class. We talk about the upside down org chart. What we're doing is the more humble we get, the more servant-minded we get, the more love one another minded we get, the more influence we have. One of my great mentors, he says it this way, you gain those you serve. If you want influence in people's lives, serve. And it's funny because I listen to a lot of marketing podcasts. I listen to a lot of business leadership podcasts. And even in the world, this is starting to gain traction. Like, what if businesses looked at the way that, hey, we're serving our customers, we're giving them something, we're giving them value. Jesus invented that. He invented that. He said, if you want to be great, become the servant of all. So when we say, I'm a leader, understand that's the definition we're talking about. And that every one of us could be a leader. Now, some might be a leader of 10, some might be a leader of 50, some might be a leader of 100, some might be a leader of 1,000. Which one of those is the most important? There's no importance. You say, oh, I want to be a leader of thousands. Well, be faithful in little, be faithful in much. And be careful that your pride isn't elevating you to that spot, because God will humble the proud and He will exalt the humble. So, you are a leader. I think that's just a key message for today as we think about who's a leader. Everybody is a leader, because we can all influence, we can all serve, we can all love one another as the New Testament commands us to do.